Welcome to lesson 1.4, subtracting integers. And all this one is finding the differences of integers. So we're going to be dealing with whole numbers, negative or positive. All right, let's get going. One of the keys here is, I'm going to underline it, is to subtract an integer, all you have to do is add its opposite. Now, some of the subtraction that you've been doing a long time, like 4 minus 2, 4 minus 2 is 2, so you don't have to think about adding its opposite. But sometimes when you have a small number and you're subtracting a larger number, you are going to want to add its opposite. Okay? So, in this example, it is 3 minus 4. And what I do here is I add its opposite. So now I have 3 plus negative 4. And I know that if I have a positive 3 and I have a negative 4, when I put those two together, I'm going to end up with a negative 1. You can go back to our previous lesson, 1.3, where when you're adding integers, you take the absolute value of them and you subtract the smaller from the bigger, and the bigger one is what sign you carry with you. You could do that. Some of these you can just think out and picture. All right. Here are a couple examples, A and B, of using number lines to find out. You can look at those, read them over. What I want to do is I want to work with the triads, and I want to show you these 3 different problems and how you might go about doing it. So let's start with number 1, 1 minus 4. And what I'm going to do when I have something like this, I'm going to change that to an add and make that the opposite. So it's 1 plus a negative 4. And when I have that, all I have to take is the absolute value of negative 4, which is 4, take away 1. That leaves me with 3. And then I know that the negative 4 has a larger absolute value than 1, so it's going to be negative. All right. Let's do number 2. Negative 5 minus 2. When I get something like this, I definitely am going to add the opposite. So now I have a negative 5 plus a negative 2. Because it's the same sign, I just do it like it is. Negative 5 plus negative 2 gets me a negative 7. All right, let's look at the third one. It's 6, a positive 6 minus a negative 5. Here too is where I want to add the opposite. So instead of subtracting, I'm going to add, and the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So now it's 6 plus 5, which equals 11. All right, that's all you got to do. On this page, they give you more examples, A, B, and C. I'll let you look at those on your own time. The examples I want to do for you are the triads. And you might be feeling fairly confident in being able to do this. You could pause it, do the triads, and then come back, because I'm going to do them right now. All right. Oops. Let's get rid of that line. I want to move this way up here so I have enough space. Some of these are going to be pretty fun to do. Like number 4. It says 8 minus 3. I don't really need to think about adding the opposite, because I know that 8 minus 3 equals 5. Now let's do number 5. We have 9 minus 17. Here's where I'm going to change that from subtraction to adding, and I'm going to change the 17 to its opposite, which is now a negative 17. So since I have the two different ones, I have a positive and a negative that I'm adding. I take their absolute value. So I take 17, which is a greater absolute value, minus the 9. And that gets me 8. And then I have to see which one is a greater absolute value. The 17 is, so it's going to be negative 8. So number 5 equals negative 8. Let's do number 6. Negative 3 minus a positive 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it from subtraction to addition, but the only way I can change that from subtraction to addition is change this from a positive 3 to a negative 3. Now I have a negative 3 plus a negative 3, and when I add negatives together, I just add the absolute value and put the negative sign in front. So it is a negative 6. Okay. Let's go to number 7. I have a negative 14 minus 9. Change that to addition and make that the opposite. So now I have a negative 14 plus a negative 9. Again, that's the same sign. It's two negatives. So the absolute values of those together, 14 plus 9 is 23. And because they're both negative, it's going to be a negative 23. Number 8, 10 minus a negative 8. So instead of subtracting, I'm going to change that to addition, and I have to make that its opposite. So now I have 10 plus 8 equals 18. And the last one, hopefully you're getting the idea of this. Negative 12 minus a negative 12. So now I'm going to add instead of subtract, and then I have to make this the opposite of what it is. It starts out as negative 12, so it's going to be a positive 12. So what I have here is I have a negative 12 adding a positive 12. And when I have the inverse like that, when I'm adding its opposite, we know that it's going to be 0. Negative 12 adding a positive 12 gets me right to 0. This is the self-assessment on page 25, and we're going to do questions 11, 12, 13, 14, and then we're also going to do 15, 16, 17, but I am going to change a little bit of 15, 16, 17. I do not, you can if you want, but you do not have to use a number line to justify your answer. What I want you to do is I want you to just find the difference of those three. Okay, so pause the video, do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, come back, and you can see how you did. All right, I'm going to start with, let's start with 11. So we have to match 11 up with either A, B, C, or D. Now, 9 minus a negative 5. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to add the opposite. So if I see something that says 9 plus 5, that one matches up. And I see that D is the correct answer. All right, now let's go negative 5, or negative 9, I mean, minus 5. So I'm going to add the opposite. So a negative 9 plus a negative 5. Negative 9 plus 5, 9, no. Negative 9 plus negative 5, there it is. So 12 and C go together. Now let's do this one. It's a negative 9 minus a negative 5. So I'm going to do the adding the opposite. So I should have a negative 9 plus a positive 5. Negative 9 plus 5. Okay, those two together. Now I know that 14 is going to go with B, but I'm still going to check it. 9 minus 5. I add the opposite, so it's 9 plus negative 5. 9 plus negative 5. And there it is. Okay. Now for 15, 16, and 17, I'll just tell you the answer, and you can see if you got it correct. If not, you can ask me about it later. Number 15 is a -2. Number 16 is a +14. And number 17 is a -3. Okay? Those are your answers. Let me know if you have any questions about those. Let's try this real-life problem. Which continent has the greater range of elevations? And we're comparing North America with Africa. So the highest elevation and the lowest elevation. And what we want to do is we want to see which one has the greater range. The way you find a range is you take the biggest minus the smallest. So let's start with North America. In North America, we have 6,198, and we're going to subtract it with the smallest, which is -86. And we want to see what their range of elevation is. So it's a subtracting of a negative, so I'm going to change that to adding and make that its opposite. So now I have 6,198 plus 86. And I add those up, and I get 6,284. And that's the range of North America. Now let's do it with Africa. Same type of thing. We're going to start with the highest elevation, 5,895 minus a -155. Okay. And I want to add the opposite. So I add the opposite, and it's 5,895 plus 155. When I do that, it gets me 6,050 is the range of Africa. So, which one has a greater range? I would have to say that North America has the greater range. This is the final little self-assessment for problem solving. There's 2 questions here, number 18 and 19. I'd like you to try these on your own. Give it a try and see what you get, and we will go over these in class.